All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Rowntree studio for this week's edition of Third and Long for Thursday Night Football, and thank goodness we finally have not just a good Thursday Night Football game, in fact, we have a great Thursday Night Football game. It's the Bengals, it's the Ravens who have been on fire, and this is going to be a fun one. When these two teams met earlier this season, we had an overtime game, we had over 70 points scored. Joe Burrow threw for 5 touchdown passes. It was electric. Now, let's look at this week's game, and both these teams are coming off 41-point performances just last week. That's why the total is set at 52.5 points. In other words, we're expecting a lot of points, the ball to be able to move up and down the field, so be cognizant of that line. That's going to set up a lot of our prop bets heading into this Thursday Night Football matchup. And something I just want to note, the weather is supposed to be a little dicey. There is supposed to be some rain in Baltimore. So with that in mind, we may have to take a second look at some of the passing props that we're going to be talking about heading into Thursday Night Football. But without further ado, the first bet that we're going to have to make is Derrick Henry. 90 yards. He's gone up over this number in 4 of his last 5 games. And again, earlier this year against the Bengals, he rumbled for 92 yards. He scored a touchdown in every single game this season. Derrick Henry is inevitable. The guy literally is Thanos. You want a touchdown? You got a touchdown. You want 100 yards on the ground? You get 100 yards on the ground. This Bengals defense is also terrible against the run, so Derrick Henry is going to have lanes to operate within. Another guy that we have to talk about in the Ravens backfield is MVP frontrunner, or at least my opinion, MVP frontrunner, Lamar Jackson. He's gone up over 225 passing yards in all 5 of his last games. In fact, he's thrown for over 280 yards in 5 consecutive games. Lamar Jackson now enters Week 10 sitting 3rd in passing yards, tied for 2nd in passing touchdowns, and 1st in QBR. Yeah, he is on fire, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'd like him to put up some more points against this weak Cincinnati defense on Thursday Night Football. And if you go over to PointsBet right now, his line to throw for over 225 yards is just -140. Even if they go to a heavy Derrick Henry game plan, I think he can still eclipse 225 yards against this horrendous Bengals secondary. So look out for Lamar Jackson. We're locking that in as one of our best bets. Lamar Jackson for up over 225 passing yards. Derrick Henry over 90.5 rushing yards. And then, obviously, the Bengals are going to need to keep pace in this one, and that's why we're looking at Joe Burrow. You can get Joe Burrow right now for 275 passing yards at even money. Yeah, plus 100 for 275 over on PointsBet. I'm locking that in. As I said, he threw for 5 touchdowns last week. He also threw for 5 touchdowns last time he saw this Ravens team and over 300 yards. So we like Joe Burrow to go out and do his thing. And then again, another bet that I absolutely love for Joe Burrow is over 1.5 passing touchdowns. This Bengals team is not going to be able to run the ball effectively. Chase Brown, yeah, he had over 100 rushing yards last week, but he hasn't been a featured back until last week. Now he's taking on a Ravens defense that's giving up just 3.2 yards per carry, ranking at the top of the NFL or right near the top of the NFL. I just don't see that there's going to be many holes for Chase in this one. And again, Khalil Herbert, that trade that the Bengals made for that second running back in the stable, now that Zach Moss is done for the season, he might not be ready to go on a short week, right? The trade deadline was literally 2 days ago. This is a Thursday Night Football game, so I'm not sure if Herbert's going to be ready, so there could be a heavy dose of Chase Brown. The problem is, I just don't think he's going to have any lanes to run the football, so it's all going to be on Joe Burrow's arm to get those yards, to throw those passing touchdowns, and over 1.5 passing touchdowns at -145. I'm locking that in. As I said, he's gone over this number in 2 out of his last 3 games, and he had 5 touchdowns last week, and 5 touchdowns against the Ravens the last time that he saw them. So those are your player props. We like Lamar to throw the ball, we like Derrick Henry to run the ball, and we like Joe Burrow to throw the ball and throw a couple touchdown passes. So we have 4 player props going into this game, and then if you're looking for a bet against the spread, it's very simple. You got to take the Bengals. You want to buy them up to 7.5 points. These two teams, when they met earlier in the season, it went to overtime, and Joe Burrow, as a 3+ point underdog, is 16-3 against the spread through his career. 16-3. Divisional game. Bengals have their back against the wall. Give me the Bengals plus 7.5 points. I think they hang with the Ravens in this one. And remember, Joe Shiesty is never out of the fight. Folks, for all of our best bets for this week's NFL slate, head over to sportstree.ca. We're up over 24 units on the season. We went up over 5 units just last week. Get in. Hop on the winning train, baby. Hop on that gravy train heading in to Thanksgiving. Plus, it'll help with your holiday shopping. Folks, I'm Connor Rowntree. Enjoy the football.